Good morning. Welcome to News Center Maine's Political Brew. Glad you could be with us. This week, we are talking with Ray Richardson from WLOB Radio and attorney Ken Altshuler, longtime co-host of the WGAN Morning Show. Gentlemen, as always, great to see you.
Great to see you as well, Pat.
The new legislature has been sworn in for a session that's being shaped by the pandemic. Lawmakers took care of some organizing chores this week, meeting at the Augusta Civic Center instead of the State House. The question first comes to mind, Ray, is should legislators return to actual work as soon as possible or wait until January as is traditional?
I think it's fine if they wait until January. It's a new legislature. If this had been the prior legislature, there was a lot of old things they needed to deal with. But it's fine if they go back in January. I just hope they go back to work. As you know, in the prior legislature and in some other prior legislatures to the last one, they would show up to work and then they would sit and wait and wait and wait. I hope the opportunity exists here for Ryan Fecteau to set a new tone as Speaker of the House, that we're ready to work and we're not going to waste people's time.
Ken, what do you think?
I'm actually surprised. I thought my good friend Ray was going to say, you hit the ground running. I actually think they should get back to work now. And I think that they could have a lot of good press by doing so. We have right now, the numbers are skyrocketing with coronavirus. It's going to get worse in January. We have financial issues we have to deal with. I think it would be a great symbol for the legislature to say, we're not going to wait till January. We're going to get to work right now. I'd say go do it.
What would be job one, Ken, if you were in charge?
Well, I mentioned both jobs, coronavirus and the economy. Coronavirus is spiking. They say it's going to be much worse in January. We have to figure out how we're going to get vaccinations distributed. And as my friend Ray will also agree with me, the economy was devastated by this. We have to figure out how to help the industries recover, particularly the tourist industry, which, of course, is already being helped a little bit by money being released. So coronavirus and economy, those are the two issues that have to be addressed immediately.
You buy that, Ray?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't really know what the legislature will do about the coronavirus. We have a mask mandate. We have a social distancing thing. I mean, I don't know what these restrictions are doing. I'm not against wearing a mask. I wear one inside. I don't wear one outside. I'm naturally a socially distanced person, but we continue to see, around the country and frankly around the world, this virus surging everywhere. So I don't feel the urgency of the legislature stepping in on the coronavirus. I do feel the urgency of the legislature stepping in on the economy. Ken's actually right. Every day matters. You have businesses closing every day. At some point, something's got to be done.
One piece of business that the legislators did take care of was electing a new Secretary of State. State Senator Shenna Bellows would be the first woman to hold the job in Maine. She says she wants to strengthen voter ID privacy while making the voting system more user-friendly and modern. Ken, do you think she's a good choice to succeed Matt Dunlap?
I do. Shenna has a long history of service kind of jobs. She was a sacrificial lamb in 2014 against Susan Collins. This kind of shows you why people run when they have very little chance of winning, because this is kind of the payback they often get and deserve. But I think Shenna was a good choice, and I think she'll do a good job there. I like her priorities, and I like the fact that she's the first woman in that office.
Ray?
For me, it's always about merit, not the first. But I like Shenna. I've always liked Shenna. Frequent guest on my show when she was the director of the ACLU. She's been a guest periodically as a state senator. I don't agree with Shenna on public policy. I mean, you might be surprised by that. But I think Shenna is an honest person. And when you have an honest person, even when you disagree with them, you can find some common ground. And I hope that we'll be able to do that, because although she's far too left for me on a number of policies, she's honest, and you should be able to work with an honest person.
Another topic, Maine Senate Republicans say Governor Mills and CDC Director Dr. Nirav Shah owe an apology to the Big Moose Inn and the Maple Crest Nursing Home. The CDC has acknowledged it cannot prove a definitive linkage of outbreaks at the nursing home and elsewhere to the wedding that was held at the inn, as was highly reported. The CDC says definitive proof would require whole genome sequencing, and they also never got a full list of the people who attended the reception, so some infected people might have been missed. Ray, what's the goal of Senate Republicans in putting out that statement this week?
I think Governor Mills has demonstrated conclusively over time, particularly with the Sunday River Brew Pub and Rick Savage, that she is very anti-business, and this is another example of it. For them to go after the inn and the nursing home in the manner in which they did, day after day, and Dr. Shaw actually went on national television and allowed inaccurate statistics to be given out. For example, they said there were 65 people at the wedding when in fact there were 55 people at the wedding, which is not insignificant. And then they could never definitively prove that there was a connection here. In fact, we know that one of the workers in the nursing home came into work sick, and so the exposure could have been from something entirely different. I think they owe them an apology. That's the very least they owe them after the way they battered both of those businesses.
Ken, what do you think's the motivation here?
Well, first, let me say that if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And in this case, they can't prove it, but clearly this wedding was the cause of a mass outbreak of coronavirus. The goal of the Republican Party is a salvo across Janet Mills' bow. They want to attack her handling of coronavirus and her strictness and her restrictions, and this is the first way to do it. I couldn't disagree with Ray Moore. I think that this was a purely politically motivated move on the Republican Party part. I understand why they do it because they're political, but they don't deserve an apology. I think it's very clear that what they admit, by the way, violating the number rules. They admit doing it, and so no, there's no apology they deserve. And Jenna Mills has done an excellent job in protecting our state.
Well, if that's the case, then why is coronavirus surging in the state of Maine faster than any other state in the country? I know she didn't keep me safe. My wife and I have done that. Our kids have kept them safe. I just think, look, at the end of the day, you can't make the kinds of attack against any business without definitive proof. You can believe something to be true. I mean, if we were to apply this to all the election theories going on out there, people would say we're crazy because of this linkage when you can't prove it. But because it fits a political narrative for Governor Mills and Dr. Shaw, then they went after these guys. I think it was wholly irresponsible on their part when they could not definitively prove it.
Ray, they could never definitively prove it. You don't have that number of people contracting coronavirus immediately after a wedding if that's not where they got it. It's common sense. So you can argue that they can't prove it, but a lot of things we know that we can't prove.
The economic recovery is clearly losing steam, and Mainers, as well as the rest of the country, are looking to Washington for help. Senators Susan Collins and Angus King helped craft a $908 billion proposal for pandemic relief. Ken, what are the chances of success here?
I think pretty good. Mitch McConnell is talking now. That's good. I think the fear about the Georgia Senate election is dissipating somewhat. And I think they have to do something. And I think Mitch McConnell is on board. The question is, will it be effective? You know, I'm not a big fan of just throwing money at problems. And I think when you look at what happened with the first PPP money, a lot of businesses got it that shouldn't have had it. I think we have to really target industries such as the hospitality industry here in Maine and focus on those businesses really who took it on the chin because of coronavirus. They have to do something, but let's also be wary of inflation. You can't just print more money and make the problem go away.
And Ray, what do you think? Would President Trump get on board with this, and would that be enough to get it through?
Yeah, I think it may, although I think the American people are going to be very upset when they find out that there's money for schools, there's money for transportation, there's money for city and state government, there's money for small business, there's money for enhanced unemployment, but there's no direct payment to the people that are out there struggling yet working. As you both know, in this particular proposal, there is no $1,200 payment like there was in the last one. And I think the American people are going to feel like, once again, they're out there doing their part and their government doesn't care about them.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. Do you think this would signal any kind of resurgence of senators seeking some middle ground, or is it just a one-time thing, right?
We've got to work together. You're going to have President-elect Biden. It looks like you'll probably have at least 51 Republicans. They're going to have to work together or nothing will get done. But they've got to work together on things that make sense. We can't work together just because we want to work together. When there are principled issues at play here, you can't cave in just to get along.
Is this a sea change, Ken?
I think it is. I'm actually quite optimistic, although the Democrats did not take over the Senate and won't, because they won't win 2 seats in Georgia. They may not even win 1. I think you still have the moderates like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, even Mitt Romney. So you have 3 Republicans at least that are middle of the road and will often join logical Democrats, moderate Democrats, to get things passed. I think when the Republicans don't have to defend Donald Trump anymore, you'll find them being much more rational and reasonable. And I think that we can have some real change in the Senate.
This week, Governor Mills unveiled a 4-year climate action plan aimed at easing the impact of climate change, setting aggressive renewable energy goals. Joe Biden's climate envoy, former Secretary of State John Kerry, was involved and says Maine could set an example for the nation. Even Bath Iron Works came out in support, saying this could create new jobs. But Ray, is the project realistic?
Well, I know Governor Mills really been hoping the federal government would bail out our state government for the way she's mismanaged the budget. But the fact is, we don't have the money. I don't know where it's going to magically materialize. We all want to protect the planet. We all want to do that. But we also have to realize people have to eat. They have to have jobs. They have to have ways to get to work. And where is the national, international plan, frankly? If we're going to drop fossil fuels and you can make money off of alternative green energy, I don't think anybody in corporate America is going to disagree with that. It's all about profit for them. But where is that renewable, sustainable, clean, green resource that's on par with fossil fuels? It doesn't exist right now.
Ken?
I agree with Ray in part. The money crunch is going to be severe. We are really going to take a hit. The tourist industry took a hit, which means tax revenues took a hit. I think that the aspirational aspect of her proposal is excellent. I think that we need to being in the forefront of climate change action is great. I think when they say we could be the model for the country, that makes me feel great pride. But I do agree with Ray that we've got to be cautious. We've got to have the money to spend before we spend it. So I think it's going to be a balancing act that we're going to have to follow in Augusta.
President Trump has raised more than $170 million as he continues his electoral challenges. Ken, do you think this is at least part of why the fight goes on so fiercely, even without as yet any significant success in the courtroom, in order to pay for future political endeavors?
You hit the nail right on the head. This has nothing to do with the election because this is a leadership PAC, and a leadership PAC can be used by President Trump for whatever he wants to use it for, which includes bailing him out of debt that's going to come due very shortly. Shame on the president. It has nothing to do with the election. And the people who follow him and who are giving him money thinking it has to do with the fraudulent election, think again. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. He cares about himself and his family.
Right.
Well, as you may imagine, I'm going to disagree with my good friend Ken. There are a lot of irregularities and anomalies in this election all over the country. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's fraud because I don't have the resources to investigate it. What I'm going to tell you is that these irregularities and anomalies need to be looked at and they need to be accounted for. Rudy Giuliani came out the other day and I guess he's taken the case to court. He says 40,000 people double voted in Nevada. That's not unreasonable when you mail out ballots to everybody. A video has surfaced out of Georgia showing ballots being taken out from under tables and suitcases. Someone has to answer for these things. And we've ultimately got to see what the Supreme Court does in Pennsylvania.
But is part of it about the money?
Well, I mean, money is power, power is money, and politics is all about both. So, of course, it's always about the money because it's always about the power. But at the end of it all, I believe Donald Trump believes he won this election and he's just trying to prove it. Whether you guys agree with that or not, if he believes that and he fought the good fight, why wouldn't he see it as far as he could?
But Ray, most of this money is not being used for these lawsuits. Most of this money is going to Donald Trump to manage. And he's not spending them on looking out for where this fraud came from. That's the problem. He's got some of this money.
Well, and you know, I mean, look, you may be right about that, Ken. There is a lot of money flowing in to fund lawsuits. And there is a persistent rumor that Donald Trump is going to hold an event on January 20th if he isn't resworn in to announce his 2024 campaign. I don't know that that's true, but that's a persistent rumor out of politicos who are smarter than I am.
All right, let's get your quick take on the winners and losers in politics this week. Start with Ken.
Well, I think the winners, Pfizer and Moderna, they were the first to put out a vaccination. Of course, it's not widely distributed yet. There'll be others that follow, but they were in the forefront. Not only are they going to make a lot of money doing this, but they were really first on the scene. So I would say they're the winners. The loser's not going to be a surprise to you. Donald Trump, who is using this PAC money to basically finance his own lifestyle. And it's a shame on him and shame on his followers. And he's the loser of the week.
And Ray.
As you may imagine, I disagree with that. So I'm going to agree with him on the drug. I'm going to say it's basically Pfizer, Moderna, and the people of this country, and frankly around the world. The speed at which these vaccines came forward and the ability to distribute them is nothing short of amazing. So I think we all win there. The loser for me is intellectual curiosity. It just seems like to me that people ought to be more concerned, no matter the outcome, forget who won, with all of these election irregularities, like in New York District 22 or in Virginia, where 14,000 ballots magically appeared, we ought to be asking questions. I'm not saying they're fraud or even malfeasance. We just ought to know why, like in New York 22, where 55 ballots show up that haven't been counted 4 weeks to the day from the election. That's something somebody ought to have to account for.
All right. Ray Richardson, Ken Altshuler, as always, thanks for being with us. We thank you for watching Political Brew. We'll see you next time. News Center Maine is back after this.